I've been telling you the 3D printing bans aren't about firearms, and it looks like the US military just accidentally proved me right. I've been covering this for a while now. The legislation, the lobbying, governments and corporations working to make sure that the ability to manufacture things, physical things, in your own home stays out of the hands of normal people. And every time I say that, someone in the comments says that I'm being paranoid, that this is about firearms, that I'm reading too much into it. So look at this. The US military has a satellite communication system called MUOS that they use in the field. The antenna masts are made of fiberglass, and fiberglass gets brittle over time. It breaks from use, from weather, from being dragged around in the field. And when it breaks, the unit loses communications capability. The replacement part costs $5,644.37, and it takes over 220 days to arrive. Across the Fleet Marine Force, millions of dollars worth of broken antennas were sitting useless while units went without communications, because that's how the system is designed to work. You don't fix it, you wait, you pay, and you have no other option. Until a Lance Corporal named, I believe, Eric Schul, 1 week into a new assignment, got handed one of those broken masts by his commanding officer, and he was told to make something. Schul was a CNC machinist before he enlisted. He had just taken a 3D printing course. He looked at the mast, reverse engineered it, modeled a replacement, and then he printed it. 10 hours, $10. He printed 107 of them. The Marine Corps saved $600,000 and 60 years of combined supply wait time. One guy, a couple of printers, and some 3D printing filament. $5,644 for a part that costs $10 to make. That's not a mistake or bureaucratic inefficiency. That is completely intentional. That is what a part costs when there's one authorized supplier, zero competition, and the company that made the system owns the intellectual property for every component in it, including the ones that you need to fix it. People have been furious about this for 40 years, probably longer. $435 hammers, $640 toilet seats, not kidding, $7,600 coffee makers. Waste, abuse, and outright fraud, scandals in the 1980s, outrage, investigations. Nothing changed because nothing was supposed to change. Now there's a company called TransDigm Group, and the DoD Inspector General caught them charging $4,361 for a half-inch metal pin. That's a 9,400% excess profit. The same company, different contract, $21 million in overcharges, markups as high as 3,650%. Now, when Congress asked about it, didn't matter. They ended up keeping the money. Some people will call this price gouging. There's a difference. Price gouging is when somebody panics and charges too much. This, unfortunately, is actually a business model, and it only works as long as nobody can make the part themselves. Schul made the part himself, and the people whose business model just got a $600,000 hole punched in it, they noticed. Now, there was a bill moving through Congress at the same time, bipartisan, supported by the White House, endorsed by the Secretaries of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, called Military Right to Repair. If the Pentagon buys equipment, then the Pentagon gets the data to fix it. The manuals, the specs, the parts list. No more waiting on a manufacturer for something a Lance Corporal can print in 10 hours. That was the whole bill, mostly. 300 small businesses, veterans, Republicans, Democrats, the Trump administration, everyone supported it. And in December of 2025, in a closed-door meeting, no cameras, no public vote, no record, it was killed. Not voted down, killed. Stripped from the final defense bill by the people running the negotiation. The same people who had taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from defense contractors. The organization that killed it is called the Aerospace Industries Association, the trade group that lobbies for Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and most of the other major defense contractors. Their CEO, went on record saying right to repair would cripple innovation. Innovation. To the Aerospace Industries Association, innovation is the exclusive right to charge $5,644 for a $10 part. And they don't defend that in the market, they defend it in Congress. Now, military right to repair is dead, but that wasn't the move that concerned me the most. Washington State's HB 2320 was just signed into law yesterday by Governor Ferguson. That bill criminalizes private 3D printing of firearm components and makes it illegal to even possess the digital files. A companion bill, HB 2321, would have required every printer to have a built-in detection algorithm that scans your files before printing. Now, that one died in committee this season. I think we actually had a lot to do with that. But California's AB 2047 is still moving. Every printer sold in the state would have to be on a DOJ-approved list with built-in software that checks your files against a government database before you're even allowed to print. And New York's governor proposed the same thing, and it's working its way through their committees right now. Before you print. Think about that for a moment. Think about the things that you've made in the last 6 months. A replacement part for something that broke. A bracket that doesn't exist anywhere because the product is discontinued. Maybe a component for something that you're fixing because the manufacturer stopped supporting it and wants you to buy a new one. Under these laws, every one of those files gets scanned, evaluated, approved, or blocked by an algorithm connected to a government database. And that decision really isn't yours. Now, the framing is always about firearms, ghost guns, untraceable weapons, these scary, horrible things. Nobody wants to defend illegal weapons, so the argument works, and the bill advances. Most people never realize what actually got passed, because these laws don't just block firearm files, they put a checkpoint on manufacturing itself. Your printer becomes a gated endpoint. Every file screened before anything gets made. Someone is deciding what you're allowed to produce in your own home with your own machine, and that someone, it's not you. Now, the Aerospace Industries Association already told you what this is really about. They said the ability to make your own parts is a threat to their business model. They spent millions lobbying to stop military from doing it. The laws targeting your printer in 3 states right now aren't a coincidence, and there are many more states working on this legislation as well. Your grandparents fixed their own cars, built furniture, made tools. Nobody required a government database. And the technology has only gotten better. A $200, $300, $400 printer today does what a full machine shop did 40 years ago. Right to repair, 3D printing, micromanufacturing, people treat those like 3 different hobbies and 3 different fights. They're not. They're all just people who figured out that they don't need the supply chain. And that is what terrifies the people who profit from it the most. Not the firearms, it's the fact that you don't need them anymore. They knew that before most of us did. That's why the lobbying was already running when Schul was still printing. Why right to repair was dead before most people even knew the vote happened. And why 3 states, and even more, are moving on your printers simultaneously. They can't beat micromanufacturing in the market. A $10 part just proved that. So they're winning it in the legislature instead. The Marine Corps put out a press release about Schul. They were proud of him, and they should be. But the press release is also proof from the US government's own military that the $5,644 price tag was fiction all along. And that one person with a $200, $300, or $400 printer can walk straight through a monopoly that's been running for decades. They're already coming after your printer. The only question is whether enough people see it before it's too late. The war on 3D printing was never about firearms.